Welcome to our deep dive into Coca-Cola's performance.
Yeah.
We're going to take a look at their financials from the fourth quarter
Okay.
and the full year of 2024.
Right.
And we're also going to look ahead to 2025.
Sounds good.
You sent over their press release and some really insightful data tables.
Yeah.
A lot to unpack.
It'll be interesting to see how all these numbers play out with kind of a challenging global environment.
Right. So first,
Yeah.
how'd they do overall in 2024? Big picture.
Well, the top line figures are positive
Okay.
globally. Unit case volume grew by 2% for the fourth quarter
Okay.
and 1% for the entire year.
Okay.
So that's notable considering all the headwinds we're seeing.
All right. So people are still buying Coke even if it's not
Yeah.
like a massive boom.
Right.
What about their financial figures, like revenue and all that?
So net revenue saw a pretty good increase.
Okay.
6% for Q4
Right.
and 3% for the full year.
Okay.
But it's not all rosy.
Okay.
Operating income had a 19% jump in Q4,
Wow.
but then dipped 12% for the full year.
Huh.
And then earnings per share saw a 12% bump in Q4, but then a slight decline for the year.
That operating income fluctuation is interesting.
Yeah.
What do you think is going on there?
It's probably a combination of factors.
Okay.
Input costs like sugar and aluminum have been going up.
Right?
And then Coca-Cola is also saying that operating expenses have increased.
Okay.
So those are probably squeezing their profitability even with the revenue growth.
So even a giant like Coca-Cola isn't immune to all the
Yeah.
global issues.
Yep.
Let's dive into specifics.
Okay.
What products stood out?
So their flagship product, trademark Coca-Cola, held steady was a 2% increase
Okay.
for both the quarter and the year.
Classic Coke, still going strong.
Most of that growth was fueled by demand in Latin America, Asia Pacific, and North America.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So Classic Coke is still doing well, but are people still open to new things? Did any other products see some growth?
Absolutely. Coca-Cola Zero Sugar had a really strong year,
Okay.
with sales soaring 13% in Q4 and 9% overall.
Wow.
So this suggests that health-conscious consumers are moving toward those low-sugar options,
Right.
and Coca-Cola is taking advantage of that.
Yeah, that makes sense. People want to enjoy their drinks, but
Yeah.
be mindful
Exactly.
of their health.
Okay.
What about their sparkling flavors category? Are those still fizzing?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
More modest pace, though.
Like
They
that.
saw a 2% increase for the quarter and 1% for the full year.
Okay.
So that indicates that there's still demand for variety and new flavors,
Right.
but the growth might be slowing down a little bit compared to the sugar-free options.
It'd be interesting to see how much of that is driven by like new flavors and
That-
stuff or just,
Net new innovation.
yeah, versus the established stuff.
Absolutely. And, shifting gears a little bit,
Okay.
emerging markets were really crucial to Coca-Cola's 2024 story.
Yeah.
Places like China, Brazil, India, and Mexico are all contributing a lot to their growth.
Those are massive markets.
Huge.
Huge populations.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that they're banking on the rising middle class in those countries to kind of drive future sales?
Yeah, that's a big part of their strategy.
Right.
As incomes rise in these places, people have more disposable income.
Right.
And that usually translates into more spending on consumer goods, and that includes beverages.
Makes sense.
So Coca-Cola is getting themselves in a position to capture that growing demand.
It's a smart move to kind of focus on that long-term growth potential.
Definitely.
But one of the big stories in the global economy over the last year has been inflation.
Yeah.
How has that impacted them?
Well, they haven't been immune to it.
Right.
Rising input costs are a challenge.
Yeah.
But they've also strategically raised prices to offset that inflation.
But raising prices is risky.
It is.
Weren't they worried about maybe losing some customers?
That's the balancing act they're trying to strike.
Oh.
For Q4 2024, about 4 percentage points of their 9% price mix growth came directly from pricing actions in markets facing high inflation.
Okay.
And for the full year, it was about 5 points out of 11%.
So they're trying to walk that tightrope between protecting their profitability but keeping things affordable.
Exactly.
We've been talking about these global trends, but what about specific regions? What did you see there?
So let's start with Latin America.
Okay.
Coca-Cola has seen some impressive gains in what they call value share.
Value share.
Value share.
Okay.
Essentially, it's their percentage of the total money spent on beverages in a market.
Oh, okay.
So they're doing especially well in Colombia, Brazil, and no surprise, Mexico.
So not just that sales are increasing,
Right.
but they're getting a bigger piece of the pie.
Exactly.
What about closer to home in North America?
They've reported value share gains across the entire non-alcoholic ready-to-drink market in North America.
Okay.
So that's not just soda, but also teas, juices, sports drinks. Basically anything you'd find in a supermarket beverage aisle.
That's impressive.
It is.
So their strategy is working across a range of beverages, not just
Well,
soda.
not limited to soda.
Okay. What about the rest of the world? Europe, the Middle East, Africa, Asia Pacific?
In Europe, the Middle East, and Africa, they saw an increase in value share for the full year.
Okay.
Uh, Strong performances in Nigeria, Romania, and France.
Right.
And in Asia Pacific, they held their value share steady.
Okay.
Gains in the Philippines, South Korea, and Japan helped offset declines in Indonesia and Bangladesh.
So a mixed bag, but overall, they
Yeah.
seem to be doing all right.
Holding their own.
Yeah, in a competitive market.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure it wasn't all smooth sailing.
Of course not.
What challenges did they face in 2024?
Well, we already talked about higher input costs and increased operating expenses.
Right.
But there's another factor that's out of their control.
Okay.
Currency fluctuations.
Oh, yes.
The strengthening U.S. dollar has impacted their reported earnings per share.
Yeah. The joys of international business.
Exactly.
The strong dollar makes their products more expensive in other countries, potentially impacting sales.
Uh-huh.
Anything else weighing them down?
Well, there's one big item.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola had to make a $6 billion deposit to the IRS related to ongoing tax litigation.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Okay, so they've had their share of challenges in 2024.
For sure.
So now let's look ahead.
Okay.
What's their outlook for 2025?
They're projecting organic revenue growth between 5% and 6%.
So that means continued growth, but
Yeah.
maybe a little slower.
Potentially, yeah.
Are they expecting any other headwinds or challenges in 2025?
They are.
Okay.
They think those currency fluctuations are going to continue,
Yeah.
potentially impacting their results by 3% to 4%.
Hmm.
And there may also be some impact from acquisitions, divestitures, and structural changes within the company.
So a mixed bag of
Yeah.
possibilities.
Lots going on.
But despite those challenges, are they still setting some ambitious goals for the year?
They are.
Okay.
They're targeting comparable currency-neutral EPS growth of 8% to 10%,
Right.
and comparable EPS growth of 2% to 3%.
Okay.
Plus, they expect to generate free cash flow,
Okay.
excluding a payment related to their acquisition of Fairlife,
Right.
about $9.5 billion.
Those are some bold targets considering how uncertain
They are.
the global economy is.
Yes, very ambitious.
We've covered a lot of ground.
We have.
In this first part of our deep dive,
Yes.
I want to circle back to the price increase strategy.
Okay.
Do you think it's sustainable long term?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
If they raise prices too aggressively,
Yeah.
they risk losing consumers who are also facing their own financial pressures.
Right.
But if they don't raise prices enough, they might struggle to stay profitable.
It's a delicate
Very delicate balance.
balance.
Yeah,
It'll be fascinating to see how it plays out.
it will.
We've covered a lot of ground, but there's still more to explore.
Definitely.
Let's take a moment to digest all this information before we dive deeper into Coca-Cola's strategies and their potential long-term implications.
Sounds good. So far, we've seen that Coca-Cola is navigating this kind of complex global economic landscape
Yeah.
with a mix of promising results, but also
Right.
challenges.
It's clear that they're making strategic moves to adapt to changing consumer preferences and kind of a volatile global market.
Yeah.
But are these moves enough?
Yeah.
What do you think is the most crucial aspect of their strategy?
It's hard to pick just one,
Yeah.
but they're, I'd say, balancing act between raising prices to combat inflation while maintaining their sales volume is crucial.
Right.
Remember that 2% global unit case volume increase we talked about for Q4?
Yeah.
So that indicates that people are still buying their products,
Even with the price hikes.
even with the price hikes.
That's
So that
low.
speaks to the strength of their brand.
That's a good point. Brand loyalty is
Yeah.
a powerful thing,
Big time.
especially when you're dealing with kind of a tough economy.
Yeah.
But that dip in operating income for the full year, even with revenue growth,
Yeah.
that's still concerning.
Yeah. It is something to watch for sure.
Could that signal deeper issues?
It could.
Okay.
We talked about the higher input costs and the strong U.S. dollar playing a role, but it raises questions about, their cost management and efficiency.
Right, right.
And that $6 billion IRS payment doesn't help,
No.
even if it's just a one-time thing.
Ouch, right? Those are kind of those external factors
Yeah.
that are hard to control.
Exactly.
But what about things they can control? Where are they making decisions that could impact their future?
Their investments in emerging markets are a good example, like
Yeah.
we were discussing.
Right.
Those economies have a ton of potential
Huge potential.
for growth.
Yeah.
And Coca-Cola is smart to get in a position to capitalize on that.
Okay.
But it's not just about expanding geographically. They're also diversifying their product line beyond just traditional soda.
What kind of diversification are we talking about?
Um,
Is this a move away from soda?
I wouldn't say a move away from,
Okay.
but more of an expansion.
Okay.
They've been buying brands and developing products in things like coffee,
Okay.
tea,
Okay.
and even plant-based beverages.
Interesting.
Yeah, so this lets them tap in to this trend we're seeing with consumers wanting healthier and more diverse options.
So they're trying to be more than just Coke.
More than just the Coke company. Yeah.
But does that risk diluting their core brand identity?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a tightrope walk
Right.
between staying current with changing tastes,
Yeah.
but also keeping their iconic brand strong.
Right.
So how well they integrate these new things while staying true to who they are will determine their success.
It's a balancing act on multiple fronts.
It is.
Juggling prices,
Yep.
new markets,
Right.
diversifying their products.
Yeah.
But let's not forget about innovation.
Right.
How is Coca-Cola staying ahead of the curve in an industry that's constantly changing?
They're spending a lot on technology and data analytics.
Okay.
Think about those freestyle machines,
Oh, yeah.
those touchscreen fountains
Yeah.
that let people make their own custom drinks
Yeah, it's so cool.
with like unlimited flavor combinations.
Right.
So that's a great example of using technology to improve the customer experience.
I love those machines.
They're fun.
It's like so many possibilities.
Yeah.
But it's more than a gimmick, right?
Oh, yeah.
Are they using that data to understand consumer behavior and...
Yeah, they're gathering data on what people like,
Okay.
not just from the freestyle machines, but from all sorts of places.
Right.
And this data helps them do things like make their supply chain better,
Okay.
personalize marketing,
Makes sense.
and even create new products based on what they're seeing.
It's like they're building a one-on-one relationship with their
Yeah.
customers through data.
Exactly.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
But bigger picture, what are the long-term implications of all these strategies?
Well, if they can pull it off,
Yeah.
if they can balance the price increases, the expansion into new markets,
Right.
the new products,
Yeah.
and the technology,
All right.
they're in a really good spot for long-term growth,
Okay.
even with all the ups and downs of the global market.
Makes sense.
But of course, there are risks.
What are the biggest risks they face?
Their pricing strategy could backfire
Right.
if inflation keeps hurting consumers.
Right. If people can't afford it anymore,
Exactly.
then it doesn't matter how
Don't-
loyal they are.
And they also need to make sure all these new products don't weaken their main brand.
Right.
And while these emerging markets are exciting,
Yeah.
they're also very complex and unpredictable.
So a lot of potential,
Yeah,
but also
lots of potential
a
problems.
lot of potential problems.
Yeah.
What about their 2025 projections? How realistic do you think those are?
They're definitely ambitious. Yeah, especially with all the currency issues
Right.
and the uncertainty of the global economy.
Right.
But Coca-Cola has a history of being tough
Right.
and figuring things out.
They've been around a long time.
They have.
They've weathered a lot of storms.
Exactly. So the next few quarters
Mm.
will be interesting to see if their plan is good enough to meet those projections.
It's a high-stakes balancing act.
It is.
So far, they've managed to stay upright,
Yeah,
but there are a lot of factors that could tip the scales.
for sure.
You know, we've talked a lot about the numbers and the strategy,
Yeah.
but there's another side to their business that's getting more and more important.
Right?
Sustainability.
Huge.
Coca-Cola has made some big promises about reducing their impact on the environment.
Yeah.
Things like water, packaging,
Uh-huh.
carbon footprint.
Big time.
This isn't just a trend.
No,
This is a fundamental shift
it really is.
in how businesses operate.
Absolutely.
Do you think they're doing this because they care about the environment?
I think so.
Or is it more about protecting their image and appealing to consumers who care about the environment?
It's probably both.
Okay.
Consumers are demanding that companies take responsibility for the environment.
Right.
And Coca-Cola is smart to understand that.
Okay.
But I also think that there are people within the company
Yeah.
who understand that sustainability is good for the planet
Right.
and good for business in the long run.
It's interesting how that's evolved from
Yeah.
kind of like a niche thing
Yeah.
to like a core part of business now.
Totally.
But are they actually making a difference?
Yeah.
Or is it mostly PR and marketing?
It's too early to tell for sure.
Okay.
But they have set specific goals,
Okay.
and they are trying to reach them.
Right.
For example, they've promised to replace all the water they use in their drinks by 2030.
Wow.
That's a big goal.
That is a big goal.
It means working with communities and organizations to manage and conserve water.
Okay, so it sounds like they're
Yeah.
taking a big picture approach.
Yeah. A comprehensive approach.
Yeah, to sustainability.
Yeah.
Not just focusing on one thing.
Exactly.
How does this compare to what's happening in the rest of the beverage industry?
Coca-Cola is so big
Yeah.
and influential.
Right.
They can set an example for everyone else.
Right.
What they're doing is pushing other beverage companies to be more sustainable too.
Okay.
Partly because they want to compete for those eco-conscious customers,
Right.
but also because they're realizing that sustainability is important for the whole industry to stay healthy.
So it's not just about doing good,
Yes.
it's also about staying competitive.
Exactly.
Well, we've covered a lot,
We have.
but I feel like there's more.
Yeah.
What other factors could impact Coca-Cola's future?
One thing to think about is regulations.
Okay.
Governments around the world are trying to limit sugar
Yeah.
and make people eat healthier.
Right.
That's going to have a big impact on Coca-Cola.
Right. So a lot of their drinks have a lot of sugar.
A lot of sugar.
So are they doing anything to respond to those regulatory pressures?
They are.
Okay.
They're changing some of their recipes to lower the sugar.
Okay.
They're spending more on marketing their low and no sugar drinks.
Like Coke Zero?
Like Coke Zero, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And they're diversifying their products
Right. We talked about that.
to include drinks that aren't traditional soda.
So they're trying to stay ahead of the game.
Yeah, they're trying to anticipate those changes.
How effective do you think those strategies are going to be?
That's hard to say.
Yeah.
It depends on a lot of things.
Right.
Will people like the new recipes?
Yeah.
Will the marketing work?
Right.
How fast are these regulations changing?
Yeah.
It's constantly changing.
Right.
So they need to keep adapting
Right.
and coming up with new ideas.
This has been a really interesting look at Coca-Cola
Yeah.
and all the challenges and opportunities they're
Right.
facing.
Mm-hmm.
It's clear that they're not just a company that makes drinks.
Right.
They're kind of a reflection of...
For global economy,
absolutely.
consumer trends,
Mhm.
technology,
Uh-huh.
social values.
All of it.
Yeah, they're a microcosm of all of that.
Exactly. And their story isn't over.
No.
The next chapter depends on how well they handle these challenges
Right.
and take advantage of the opportunities in front of them.
Right.
It's a story worth following,
Right.
not just for people who are into business,
Right.
but for anyone who wants to understand what's happening in the world.
We've looked at their finances,
Yeah.
their strategies,
Uh-huh.
the challenges they're up against,
Yep.
their efforts to be sustainable.
Big time.
Anything else we need to consider before we move on to the last part of our deep dive?
Yep.
So we've really gotten into the inner workings of Coca-Cola,
We have.
the financials, their strategies,
Mhm.
the challenges.
Yeah.
Now let's zoom out a little
Okay.
and look at the bigger picture.
Right.
How does Coca-Cola's performance affect the whole beverage industry?
Yeah, it's important to consider those ripple effects.
What can other companies learn from their successes and struggles?
Yeah, they're kind of like a trendsetter for the whole industry, right?
Exactly. Like a bellwether.
Right. What they do kind of influences
Yeah,
the rest of the market.
totally. Take the pricing strategy, for example.
Oh, okay.
If they can keep raising prices without losing too many customers,
Yeah,
other companies might try to do the same thing.
which means we might all end up paying more for our drinks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Their success or failure in this area is going to be something that other companies are watching really closely.
Especially with all the inflation we've been seeing.
Oh, yeah, big time.
What about their push into these emerging markets?
Yeah.
Is that something that other global brands are going to try to copy?
It's definitely a trend to watch.
Okay.
As Coca-Cola expands into these fast-growing economies,
Mm-hmm.
it could open the door for other companies to do the same.
Especially companies that sell things that people buy every day.
Exactly. Consumer goods.
Right. It's
Yeah.
like they're exploring new territory.
In a way, yeah. But it's not just about geography.
Okay.
Their move to offer more than just soda.
Right.
That's also something that other companies are paying attention to.
Okay.
This shift towards coffee, tea, plant-based drinks, it shows that people are looking for healthier and more sustainable options.
So they're expanding in two ways.
Yeah.
Outward into new markets
Huh.
and also into new products.
A dual expansion strategy.
Right. And that makes me wonder,
Yeah.
can a company that's known for sugary drinks
Yeah.
really become a big player in the health and wellness space?
That's a good question.
It's a tough challenge, right?
It is a tough challenge.
You have to appeal to these new customers without
Right.
losing the ones you already have.
Yeah, you don't want to alienate your base.
Exactly.
That's something a lot of big companies are struggling with.
Right, as things change.
As cases change, yeah.
And speaking of changing, we can't forget about technology and innovation.
Right.
How are Coca-Cola's efforts in that area kind of changing the industry?
Well, their use of data analytics,
Yeah.
personalized marketing,
Okay.
those interactive experiences like the freestyle machine.
I love those.
Yeah.
Those are so cool.
They're setting a new standard for how beverage companies interact with their customers.
It's not enough anymore to just
Right.
make a tasty drink.
Exactly.
You have to create a whole experience.
That's the key takeaway.
Right.
People, especially younger people, expect companies to know what they like.
Right.
And cater to that.
It's a shift from mass marketing
Yeah.
to like a one-on-one kind of thing.
Exactly. Personalized engagement.
Right.
And Coca-Cola is leading the way.
Now let's go back to sustainability.
Okay.
We talked about how it's become a core part of their business,
Uh-huh.
but are they setting an example that other companies are following?
I think so.
Okay.
They're so big and influential
Right.
that they have a real opportunity to promote sustainable practices.
Right.
Their commitment to things like water conservation,
Okay.
innovative packaging,
Yeah.
reducing their carbon footprint.
Mhm.
It's putting pressure on other companies to do the same.
It's like a ripple effect.
Yeah.
One company makes a move,
Uh-huh.
and it can change the whole industry.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And it's not just about being a good corporate citizen.
Okay.
Customers care about this stuff now.
Right.
They want to buy from companies that are doing the right thing. So it's good for the planet,
Right.
and it's good for business.
It's not a trade-off anymore.
Exactly.
It's all
Things
connected.
all intertwined.
Well, this has been a really fascinating look at Coca-Cola.
Yes.
You know, we've analyzed their performance,
Yeah.
broken down their strategies, explored their impact on the whole beverage industry.
Absolutely.
Any final thoughts before we wrap things up?
I think the big takeaway here is that even a company as huge and well-known as Coca-Cola can't just sit back and relax.
Right.
They have to constantly adapt to keep up with changing tastes,
Yeah.
economic challenges,
Right.
new technologies.
It's a reminder that even the biggest companies have to evolve.
Exactly. If you don't evolve, you don't survive.
And what they're doing can teach us all something about business.
Yeah. No matter how big or small your company is,
Right.
the ability to innovate, to adapt, to embrace sustainability,
Mm-hmm.
that's what's going to determine success in the future.
And for our listeners out there, keep an eye on how Coca-Cola handles these challenges in the years to come.
Yeah.
Will their investments in emerging markets pay off? Will their sustainability efforts actually make a difference?
Good question.
And how will they keep evolving their brand to stay relevant in a world that's constantly changing?
Those are great questions to think about.
Yeah, Coca-Cola's story isn't over yet.
It's a story that's still being written.
Right, with new chapters all the time.
Every quarter, there's something new.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of Coca-Cola.
Yeah, this is fun.
We'll be back soon with another insightful exploration of a different topic.
Looking forward to it.
Until then, stay curious.